Christos Anesti. Christ is risen. Excellent. I hope you're all recovering well from Holy Week and the festivities. It was lots of fun for lots of us. Today, we celebrate Thomas Sunday. And last year, I gave sort of a sermon defending Thomas a little bit. For those of you who weren't here for the gospel or are unfamiliar with the story, the text, if you open this up, it's right here. The whole story, right here, right here. But to sort of summarize, I'll just give you the Doxas Dikon from Orthros, one of the hymns. It says, "After 8 days from your resurrection, O Jesus, our King, and the Father's only begotten Word, you appeared to your disciples, the doors being shut, and you granted them your peace. And to the disbelieving disciple, you showed the marks on your body. Come and touch my hands and feet and my uncorrupt side. And he believed and cried to you, my Lord and my God, glory to you." So, the long story of that's like the summary of the story. I highly recommend you read it because we're going to talk about it. So a week, like 2 weeks ago, a friend of mine who's not Orthodox, we were talking and she asked me, she goes, you know, did all that actually happen? Like, did the stories in the Bible actually, did that really happen? And I guess this one, if she's listening on the YouTube channel, is for her because, and for us, because there's this Western mindset that's like, I have to have proof. I don't want to just believe on faith. You got to show me the proof, all right? And until then, I don't believe. Until I feel the holes in your hand and touch your side, I'm not going to believe. Now, it's easy for us to sort of say, well, you just got to have faith. That's, but the Lord in our gospel lesson today doesn't take that easy way out. He actually says, all right, here's my hand, here's my side. Be not disbelieving, but believe. So I'm taking today to sort of walk you through maybe, let's see, I got 8 reasons why you should believe that the resurrection of Christ is historical fact. And keep in mind, this is all leading somewhere. So first is the empty tomb. In 1 Corinthians 15, 3-4, it tells us not just that Jesus died, but that he was buried. That he was laid in a tomb after his death, and it was sealed. But on resurrection morning, we are told his body was no longer there. The tomb was empty. So certainly, the Roman authorities could just, quell the entire Christian movement by producing the body of Christ. But they couldn't. He was not there. This is one of the reasons why we have the icon of the resurrection. The tomb is empty. He's not where they put him. The second one is the eyewitness account. So after Jesus was resurrected, he made several appearances to people, including an appearance to 500 people that are mentioned in 1 Corinthians 15:6, where Paul makes note that many of these 500 people are still living. So why would he say that? What difference does it make that the eyewitnesses are alive or dead? Well, the answer should be pretty obvious. If they are still alive, they can be consulted. It's as if Paul is saying, go ahead, I dare you, check out my story. So Paul must have had a great high degree of confidence in the reliability and credibility of those who literally saw Jesus after he was alive, after the resurrection. So this also brings me to another point. Maybe you're having trouble just believing the whole book thing. And so I have a note, and I need a participant, somebody that's willing to read what's in this note. Anyone? Come on. All right. Stand up, face everyone. So what's your name?
Bryce.
Okay, Bryce. So what does this say?
Yesterday I saw Father Paul perform a baptism.
All right. Do you believe me when I wrote that?
You wrote it?
I wrote that, yeah.
Okay.
Do you believe me?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all the faith it takes to believe in the Gospels. Somebody saw it, they wrote it down, and now they're giving you the note. And that's it. So it's not even that big of a jump to believe the Gospels. Okay, so that's another point. So the other one is the transformation of the disciples, particularly Peter. In 1 Corinthians 15:5, Paul mentions that Jesus appeared to Peter and then the 12. So this is the guy who doubted Christ, the man who doubted Christ when he was being crucified. And then it wasn't just a few months later, like 50 days later, basically, that Peter is boldly telling everyone that he is a follower of Christ. So a man who was scared of execution is now like not afraid. Something had to change, and it's because he saw Christ and he was engaged and encountered in him. Another one that's maybe the fifth thing here is the testimony of the women. So the first people to see the resurrected Christ were women, and women had such a low social standing that their testimony in the time of Jesus was not acceptable in court. So if the gospel writers were fabricating a story, they would have had every reason to just strike that detail from the gospel account because it wouldn't add any credibility to their story. However, it's the truth, so they told it like it was. Another thing, the symbol of the cross. The cross at the time of Christ was a symbol of atrocity. It was just the most despicable thing you could do. And from that symbol of the cross grew Christianity. It would be like, and to such an amazing side, it went from being something so horrible that it then became the symbol of an empire. It would be like us starting an empire on like the gas chamber. Like it doesn't make sense. But there had to be some credibility, some sort of evidence, some actual event that happened that brought the cross into its prominence. And that is the resurrection of Christ. Finally, the early church grew from a few frightened disciples on the night of Jesus' death to a few billion believers in the world today. It has been transformed from the most persecuted institution to the most influential institution in the history of the world. So how could the church grow so rapidly if the apostles were spreading lies? Why would so many martyrs and saints, why would people die for this if it wasn't true? Another thing, the ecumenical councils. So the ecumenical councils have debated everything from icons to, did Christ have two wills? Was Christ two persons? Like all these debates happen. They have never once debated the resurrection. You'd think that'd be something that they debate, like, maybe it actually happened, maybe it didn't, but they haven't, because the truth of the matter is, it happened. Finally, we have the saints, and this is probably the one that doesn't make any sense to the Western mind. When I tell you about Saint Dionysios of Zakynthos, who every year they have to change his shoes because he walks around so much. When I talk about the holy fire, if you don't believe, these miracles mean nothing. And that is the entire point of today's gospel. All the facts I just gave you are meaningless without faith. Because even if I told you the truth, even if you saw someone, to quote gospel, in Luke 16:31, it says, if they do not hear Moses and the prophets, neither will they be convinced if someone should rise from the dead. And that is the point that Thomas Sunday is about. If you're looking for facts, great, we got them. If you're looking for faith, you're here. The Orthodox Church isn't about proof, which we have. It's not about history, which we have. It's about faith. Christ rebukes Thomas and says, be not disbelieving, but believe. And that's the important part. Like, I could go on. These are just a few arguments for history, but we're not here for history. We're here for the living resurrection. And that's the important part. That's what I'm trying to get at today. It's very well put together in this hymn of the feast from Troparion 3 of the canon, where it says, you arose from the grave as God, O Christ. We have not seen you with our own eyes, but have believed in you with longing of heart. We hymn and magnify you. Christ is risen.